Hey guys, Midway Piper back with you today. A little closer to the camera because, as you'll probably hear lots in the video or see in the background, it's quite a windy day today. Today's video is actually going to be a VR to a comment by Michael Clark, I believe was the name, asking in my last Pipes and Books video what my top three most influential reads in the last 10 years have been. So we'll get into that in just a moment. It's a great question, by the way. Thank you for that. First things first, some housekeeping. I think you guys have seen this pipe before. It's been a while though. I haven't broken this out for a little while. Today I'm smoking my Nording. This is Eric the Red. I don't even know exactly what you would call this shape. But these things are actually pretty inexpensive by most standards of pipes like this. They generally go for around, I think, 80 or so. You know, it's not a super nice polished pipe or anything like that, but still get lots of character out of it. Pretty cool stem. And in it I have the second of the Rivertown Tobacco Works tobaccos that I ordered. This one's called Sunset Velvet, and this is supposed to be a vanilla and wild cherry mix. Virginia's and Cavendish. I'll tell you, I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, I guess, almost getting a little bit of a, like a fake coconut vibe smell from it. It's definitely not a cherry like Blood Red Moon. It's definitely not up in your face like that. Vanilla's kind of there. It's interesting. It doesn't seem as harsh as the other Rivertown blend that I tried a couple videos back. I don't necessarily know that it's something I really like. I don't dislike it, but I'm glad I went with the 1 ounce samples of these. Yeah. Oh. They're not super exciting. So, all right. So, wanted to go ahead and answer that question. Top most influential reads over the last 10 years. And I do want to put in a little bit of a side note here. I didn't really get back into reading maybe the last 3 years or so. I didn't do much reading for a significant period of time. I was more of a, I'm getting like a coconut candy kind of flavor. You know, that doesn't really taste like coconut, but I'm getting that out of this for some reason. I'm not mad at it. It's just not, it just surprises me every time. Anyways, so there was a large chunk of time when I was younger. I did a bit of reading, and then I got into games and computers and such, and yeah. So and then life happens, and you know, you move along. So the last 3 years, I've gotten really back into reading. So the question was about the last 10 years, but I'm going to sort of narrow it down to the last 3 that I've done serious reading in. So I guess these are going to be in no particular order. We'll start with this one. We'll go backwards in recency bias. You guys have watched any of my Pipes and Books videos. This is not going to be a surprise in the least bit. Shadow of the Wind, of course. This book has absolutely been fantastic. Absolutely loved it. I'm about to wrap up the 4th book, the last book in the series. Fantastic storyline all the way through all the books. Great character development. Very memorable characters. I read a lot of series. When I first got back into reading, I was really into fantasy and sci-fi. And, you know, while I enjoy those books, authors seem to have a hard time in those genres closing out a series. When they have something that takes off, they just keep making more, which I understand. But when you don't put an end date on a series and then you release a book every year to 2 years, you have to go back and reread all the books every single time a new book's about to come out, which it takes its toll after a while. So this book, it's out of 4, sort of restored my, I don't want to call it, it's certainly not sci-fi. I don't want to call it fantasy. I guess maybe historical fiction. I guess Barcelona. But just what can be done with character work. I mean, for me, character work is what makes the difference as to whether I'm going to continue a series or not. I'll finish a book in a series, but if the character work isn't that great, I'm probably not going to pick up the next book in the series. So, Shadow of the Wind. I've said so much about it in so many videos at this point that just go read it. Next up, probably not a huge surprise either if you've been following the channel for a little while. J.C. Ryle, he's my man. He's really got me into reading Christian works, and sort of the gateway, the one that got me hooked into reading a lot of his other works and continuing down that road is a very short little volume, but it's called Duties of Parents. And I bought this book a couple of years ago when my son was born, and I've read it, doesn't take long, several times, and something about it this year just really clicked, and it's been a rabbit hole that I've been going down, and I'm very happy. So that has brought a spiritual life back to me, or to me in the first place, I guess. So really anything by J.C. Ryle, you're not going to go wrong. I love he has very structured works, so it's easy to follow along and keep track of exactly what he's talking about. So J.C. Ryle, anything again by him? Well, this one again, Duties of Parents. Short little read. All right. Last 2. Sorry, I'm doing 4, by the way. Yeah, we'll do this one next. The next one is called Endure by Cameron Hanes. Cameron Hanes is a hunter, an ultra marathon runner. He's got a great podcast, Keep Hammering. One of his sons just broke the world record for the most number of pull-ups in 24 hours. And as the name kind of hints in this book, Endure, it's about doing hard things. And the benefit to doing them, why you should do them, and how it makes you a better person. I mean, I think that's something that culture could use a lot more of. Not getting so bent out of shape about simple things. So that's a good book. I've gone back and read that, I don't know, a handful of times. It's not a super thin volume, but I've gone through and marked important passages for me. So that one's pretty good. And then the final one, I'm a huge fan of this author. I don't know if I've ever really talked about him on this channel, honestly. Someone else who started leading me towards the towards Christianity. I don't think a lot of people would think of him as doing that. If you just think about him on the surface level. But, well, enough of that. Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. I think I have like 4 or 5 different versions of this book. And it's fantastic. It's not for the faint of heart. I love these Penguin Classics Deluxe editions. Got such great work on these. It's a story of another story, I should say, of a very unreliable narrator, indecisive narrator. If you're honest with yourself when you read it, you'll understand that a lot of the dilemmas that the narrator of this story faces are things that we sort of battle with ourselves, but we don't want to admit. Dostoevsky, throughout his life, later in life, leaned pretty heavily into the Russian Orthodox faith. So that's where the religious aspect of that comes in that I was talking about. So Dostoevsky, if anyone's not familiar, when he was younger, he was essentially going around with a group of what I guess later would be referred to as communist-esque people. And at one of the meetings, they all got arrested and tried as criminals. Dostoevsky was put in jail. He was going to be shot in a firing line, and at the last moment, a sort of a pardon or reprieve was brought from the Tsar of Russia. You guys hear that wind? Been like that all since last night. And then Dostoevsky was then moved into a prison camp in Siberia for a number of years, and then he was released. Some people say that it was never actually going to get shot in a firing line, that it was part of the mental, it was a mental game on the prisoners. But having had that background, Dostoevsky was relatively, I would say, relatively able to predict the upcoming Russian Revolution that occurred. The movement of nihilism in the world, sort of move away from a religious life into nihilistic, there is no purpose to life other than pleasure, hedonistic. So, very important figure. Some of his works can be a little bit tricky to read. But well worth it. Well worth it. And this book, one of the reasons I chose it, in addition to all the other things that I talked about before, one of the reasons is I would classify it as one of the more influential books for me, is it was sort of I had heard some things, read some things about Dostoevsky, and this is where I chose to sort of jump in at reading him. And I don't know, I had this sort of mental block previous that the classics were either not good, probably because of what, school does to you, making you read those and whatnot. But it got me to understand that I, in fact, can pick up a classic and actually enjoy it. And I've read many classics since, and thoroughly enjoy them, most of them. So that was sort of my introduction into reading classics. When I finish the fourth book of the when I finish the fourth book from this series, I'm going to be starting Don Quixote. So get another classic under my belt. So yeah, I've read a lot over the last several years. These were just some of the standout books that really stuck with me. And so there's a VR to a quick question. So I hope you enjoyed. One last quick little detail. Today is in fact President's Day. Spent most of the day at work so far, so not quite the day off that I was hoping, but it was what it was. Woke up early, went to the gym, and when I got to the gym this morning, with this funny little comment, when I got to the gym this morning, the TVs were on, and I was warming up on the treadmill, and the guys that own the gym are pretty red, and for some reason the TVs were on. Half of them were on CNN, and the other half were on MSNBC, and CNN was CNN London. And they were talking about how screwed up things are right now with Trump and Doge and all that kind of stuff. And I just kind of chuckled because, London is not one to be able to speak about screwed up governments in other places. So I got a little chuckle out of that. And then the MSNBC, they were interviewing a historian for President's Day, and the historian was the newscaster was saying, why do we celebrate President's Day? Because not all presidents are worth celebrating. You can tell where they were going with that. And the historian that they brought on agreed. And she said, along the lines that, President's Day, we shouldn't just blankly celebrate presidents because not all of them are worth celebrating. Instead, we should celebrate actions that some of the presidents have done, such as George Washington, stepping aside after his second term, and Abraham Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation, and that's the kind of thing that we should be celebrating. And you could see where they were going with that, and I got a good little chuckle out of that. And it brought to mind, I've mentioned him now a couple of times on previous podcasts, the Brian McClanahan show. If you haven't checked that out yet, still, go ahead and do it. You'll probably enjoy it if you're into American history at all. And not the, the standard narrative that's always pushed by, whatever. But along those lines, one of the things that he often says is that history is no longer an academic field. It's an activist field. Pretty much meaning that there is the majority of popular historians are more so public activists. They put all the attention on a certain narrative of the United States and neglecting other parts of it to form a narrative. So I thought that was interesting and timely, to say the least. So that all being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.